what it costs to buy a home and the cost that you should be aware of, whether you're selling or buying a home. We're going to go through a lot of different things that you might not be considering and factoring in. Now, normally this is what I do is like a consult for a seller or a buyer, but if you're someone who wants to kind of test the waters and kind of find what realtor works for you, got a fly right there, then follow me along. I've got plenty of videos on different types of cities to live in, different areas you should avoid, things to look for in buying a home or selling a home, all things coming up. And I'm going to talk to you about what it really costs to move here in Utah. Hi, my name is Jenny. I'm with Real Broker. This is your first time to my channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. There is a bell that will give you notifications every single time I make a video. But until then, you guys, let's jump into the video. So I debated on kind of doing one of these videos because this is where I really want to pull you in and talk to you and have an individual conversation with you, because everybody's situation is going to be different on how much it's going to cost or sell a home here in Utah. Now, as a real estate agent, I definitely am into the numbers. I'm someone who's focused on the numbers. I'm someone who's focused on working with a lender if we're needing to work with a lender and with a title company. Typically, there's lots of different factors, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. You may not be aware of some of these fees. And if you're looking to move again, maybe you need to be refreshed on some of these fees are being, rather than feeling pressured to reach out to a real estate agent. I obviously want to talk to you. I obviously want to get a hold of you and have some conversations with you, because these numbers might not mean the same thing for you. But if you just want to test the waters, let's talk about it. Okay, closing costs. Okay, when it comes to closing costs, you have appraisal fees if you're a buyer. You have a loan origination fees, which you're paying the lender. You have title insurance fees, and then you have escrow fees on top of that. You also might be paying the realtor, depending on negotiations with the realtor. Now, if you're a buying agent, I typically ask the seller to pay for those fees. And if you're seller, you are paying for a buyer and a seller, which has typically been the norm, because if you're trying to buy a home, there's a lot more back-end fees than it is to selling a home. So these are things to pay attention to. Now, realtors usually take about an up to 3%. Everything's negotiable nowadays because of the law that was changed about a year ago, that it's no longer advertised on a listing on how much a realtor is going to be paid. The deal of the price of the home and my commission all go hand in hand when it comes to negotiations, which really helps you define and determine what kind of realtor you want to work with, because are they willing to fight for their commission, and are they willing to fight for you at the same time? If I'm not willing to fight for me, why would I be willing to fight for you? Kind of a gist. You know what I mean? There's realtors out there that will definitely discount their services by massive amounts in order to gain your services. I wouldn't recommend that. I know flat rate brokers that are out there have been very competitive, but at the end of the day, if you want to pay for a flat rate, you're going to pay for a flat rate service. Just depends on how you feel. I'm not here to try to tell. I think that hiring me is going to be your best option, because statistically, you are going to save and or make more money when it comes to hiring a realtor. And the thing is when I talk to people who don't want to work with a realtor, they think they're saving money. The reality is they don't understand the market to even know where they're not saving money and where they're spending extra money. I even have family members that are like, oh, I don't think realtors are important. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's my business. That's their profession. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's hard to explain to you that if you had worked with me when building your home, this is where you were going to save the money. You're not saving money by not using a realtor, because builders don't give a discount to people who are not using realtors. They just pocket that money themselves and then just charge you the same amount anyway, because when it comes to market value, they can't do that. It also comes on the back end of being able to negotiate things that you are warranted to, that you should be negotiating, that you might not know about. So when I have people tell me they save money by not using a realtor, I'm like, it's more complicated than you think. So again, you also have loan origination fees if you're going to be a buyer. Lenders want to get paid too. We factor all of this into what it's going to cost. I always give you a round estimation, what do you want to call it, for what it's going to look like at the closing table. If you're needing to bring cash to the table, what an earnest money is going to look like. We're going to get into those things. Okay. So not only do you have fees for buying the home, using a lender, using a realtor, but you also have fees for moving. When it comes to moving trucks and packing fees and paying for boxes, first suite of expenses, if you need to change the locks on your home, if you have minor fixes and upgrades that you want to make, you're going to add some knobs on your kitchen, because a lot of times kitchens don't have hardware, which I find so interesting. You want to change out a new toilet, if you want to get new furniture, if you need to buy a refrigerator, especially if you're doing a new build. Lots of different things to factor in. If I were you, I'd get that little list together, say, look, we've got the expenses of what it's going to cost here and here and here, and I can definitely go over a lot lot of that with you. If you're someone who really wants someone to hold your hand and walk you through that, I'm absolutely here to do that, because I want to be that realtor to making sure that you and I are both on the same page on where you're at with your finances and moving forward. I want you to feel secure with this move, because this is probably the largest purchase you're ever going to make in your life, and I want to make sure you feel good about it. On top of that, you also want to budget extra side cushions. You never know what's going to happen when it comes to, maybe you have some more expenses of the timeline changes or it shifts. Maybe we had to extend out the deadline of the closing deadline. That changes. You have to have some changes in your leasing. You have to have some changes in the movers. Make sure you have some cushion. I naturally create a cushion for you when we have a conversation, because I always like to err on caution rather than be too tight with the numbers. But make sure, if you've got some immediate repairs, you've got some moving expenses, to definitely factor that in, especially if you want to buy that new couch during the Labor Day season. I totally get it. Let's talk about property taxes, HOA fees. If you're going to have any other extracurricular things that you're wanting to do in that neighboring area, if you're wanting to buy, a pass to go skiing because now you're close to them, or if you're needing to buy a transit system, UTA, or a carpool lane ticket. There's lots of different things to factor in, being like, okay, now I'm going to live 40 minutes away from my work and I definitely want access to that carpool lane, so I'm going to pay the annual fee. Or I definitely now am close to the front runner and I want to make sure I pay for the front runner. Things to factor in as far as commute time, things to factor as far as HOA fees. HOA fees, your monthly payments you're doing that. Are they going to come over and shovel your driveways? Are they mowing the lawn because you're living in a townhouse? Do you have a pool in a community? Even in your own facility, maybe you have your own pool. Maybe you're going to have to hire some people to do some pest control. I have a lot of people who want to clean carpets when they first move in because they don't want the muggy, icky smell of the old people living there, where they have animals. You never know what it might be. Sometimes I'll hire cleaners for you, give you a cash amount of cleaners that can come in and clean the home and deep clean the area. Things like that I want to help you out as a real estate agent, of fees and factors that you might not be considering. Maybe you don't want to mow the lawn. You want to hire a little neighborhood kid to do it for you. Things you don't think about, especially being a new homeowner, or if you're upgrading into a new space, how much it's going to cost now for utilities in that area. Home maintenance. So let's just jump into the next one. So you got the number 4, home maintenance. We talked about lawn care, pest control, utility, water, sewer, gas, the HOA. What do we see? Larger homes. There's a rule of thumb that says 1 to 2% of homes per value up year of the upkeep. 1 to 2% of homes value per year for upkeep. That's not a bad rule. I just read that in my little thing. That's not a bad rule to be thinking about, is factoring out what that monthly cost is going to be, and being maybe a new homeowner or when you're upgrading your home. I definitely want to be transparent on where these fees are going to be at. I will be very open to you what's going on with the lender's fees, with my fees, if you have any HOA transfer fees, if there's insurance, if you're paying PMI on this stuff, what title company fee. I literally lay it all out for you on a sheet that says step by step, piece by piece, whether you're selling your house or you're wanting to buy a home. Areas, commuting, cost of living, if you got extra school, private school stuff you're wanting to do, all of that is factored into moving. Now, this can all seem very overwhelming, but realize that once you lay it all out and you have a plan, you start to feel empowered. You start to feel like this is something that's possible, which means your dream of owning a home can be possible. I even have some clients that are like, look, we don't want to tie down to a mortgage right now. We want to be able to do a rent to own situation where we're renting it and we're eventually going to have a balloon payment where we're going to own it in 5 years. We can set up those situations for you as well. I have opportunities where we're going to rent the basement that's going to offset the mortgage for us. So that's going to give us more cash flow to move forward here. If you're looking to own a larger home, there's lots of different opportunities of types of loans that can get you there. I price point different loans. Let's say you want to do what's called a arm length of there's like a 7-year arm when it comes to interest rates, where you're willing to pay a lower interest rate for the first 3 to 5 years, sometimes up to 7 years of a lower interest rate, but then it goes to the regular interest rate. Now you have to qualify at that regular interest rate, or you're looking at the market and I say, hey, let's buy this house, and in hopes maybe the interest rates will go down and you can refinance it. I don't necessarily recommend that, but if that's something that you're wanting to consider, then you can definitely do that and say, look, let's look at the interest rates and with how that's going to offset our payment. I definitely play that game all day, every day, of what's more important. Do we need to buy down the interest rate, or can we look at maybe if you have enough cash down to getting rid of PMI, let's change the type of loan that we're looking at. Trust me, I have done it all, of we need to jump ship, we need to have a new plan, we need to figure this out, we need to have this here. At the end of the day, I've never had a deal not go through when they wanted to close. A lot of times, some people, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes people will back out of a deal because they're not happy with the deal. And that is totally your option to do that. And I explain that to you of what your rights are as a seller and as a buyer and moving forward, and what it looks for financial and for the timeline. So if you're wanting to have this conversation of whether you're selling your home or wanting to buy a home, text me. I've got my number in the comments down there below. I also have a link in the description to set up a Calendly link and just set up an immediate time to talk to me virtually, or stalk me on social. You can stalk me on Instagram or on TikTok. I'm all over there. See if you like me, see if you vibe with me, and let's start a conversation to see if I'm the right realtor for you and moving forward and making one of the largest purchases, because I definitely want to be there for you. Until then, you guys, I'll see you in my next video.